Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
Yesterday, the Federal Court of Appeals heard the oral arguments on Obamacare. I'll talk about it today on Faith and Freedom. I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel and dean of Liberty University School of Law. Joining me is Matt Barber, associate dean for the law school at Liberty and vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Yesterday, the first case in the country was argued, and I argued the very first one of those cases, and that is the Liberty University versus Geithner, a challenge to Obamacare that was passed and signed into law March 23, 2010 by President Obama. This Court of Appeals, Matt, in Richmond is called the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. They usually make their decisions fairly quickly, so our case was the first one argued, and the next series of cases would be argued 5 to 6 weeks later at other courts of appeals. So likely our case will be one of the first, if not the first, to make its way to the United States Supreme Court. On the same day after you argued, Attorney General Constitutionality with the state Commonwealth of Virginia argued Commonwealth of Virginia v. Sebelius. That's Virginia's case against Obamacare, similar in some ways to Liberty Counsel's case in that it challenges the individual mandate to Obamacare, which would compel people, really for the first time that we can find in history, to affirmatively purchase some good or service. Liberty Counsel's case with Liberty University as a client also argued the employer mandate, so the individual and the employer mandates, because now Liberty University is being compelled to purchase insurance and participate in this government takeover of health care. How did the arguments go? Well, you know, the arguments are pretty well known even before you get into court, because we've already argued this at the district court level. We've seen all the arguments that they've put forth in all of their briefs in the other cases, including those that they filed in our case. And here's the thrust of the argument from the United States. The United States takes the position that health care is unique and that you cannot opt out of health care. You may not have health insurance, but you can't opt out of health care. Well, the problem with that argument is that, first of all, it's not that unique in the sense that there's a lot of things you can't opt out of. You can't opt out of eating, and you can't opt out of dying. Right. Everyone is going to participate in that. Not everyone universally will participate at all in health care, but you always will have everyone 100% participating in eating and dying. So it's really not so unique. And even if it is unique, that itself doesn't allow you to stretch the Constitution beyond its parameters. The Constitution sets up the federal government with limited powers and the states with retained powers. And this clearly intrudes into the rights of states and also into the rights of individuals. Their argument then goes on to say, well, the health care is so massive and there's so much money that is involved in health care. People that don't get health insurance, they're ultimately covered by other people who do get health insurance. So consequently, we need to force everyone to be part of this. They say basically what we need to do is we need to require everyone to have coverage. And in order to do that, we need to have everybody covered. So that the insurance companies need to cover everyone, and in order for them to have a financial viability, we need to force everyone to buy this insurance product. The problem is that puts the federal government in this unusual situation that it's never been in, and that would allow the federal government to force individuals to buy something and push them into the stream of commerce that they're not voluntarily participating in. That's unprecedented. If they can push you into the stream of commerce and then say, oh, well, you're now in the stream of commerce because we're going to fictitiously say that you are, then there's no limits on what they can do.
Because you're penalized if you don't go into the stream of commerce. Now we have, under the Commerce Clause, control over you and your decisions and what health care you get. And in fact, we get to decide what procedures you undergo. And if it's not cost effective, why then, sorry, you're out of luck. As President Obama famously said, well, instead of that kidney transplant here's a pain pill. This will make you feel better.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a strange and unusual, uncharted water that the government would be in, where they can actually force you to buy something, and there's no precedent for it in American history, and for good reason. Even during if you go back to the early American struggle between the colonials and Great Britain, the king of Great Britain put taxes on certain things. You had the Stamp Act, you had some of the notorious acts, you ultimately had the Boston Tea Party. One of the things that he did not do is he did not force them to buy tea.
Yeah, right.
He was going to import it and put a tax on it based upon your consumption of it, but you had to voluntarily buy it.
You had to consent to purchase
it. So even
then,
the king did not force people to buy it. What this is the king is forcing everyone to buy a certain product. That's even goes beyond what the king of Great Britain tried to do to the colonials.
Yeah, and we had a revolution over that. Well, Matt, let's bring it up to a 30,000-foot level for a second. We've talked about specifically some of the specific legal problems associated with Obamacare. You know, the bill's official title is the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. Well, boy, to have affordable care in there is certainly an oxymoron. There's nothing affordable about this. In fact, it will burden states through this unfunded mandate. We're talking about individual mandates, employer mandates. This is an unfunded mandate. Many states are filing legislation at the state level to essentially say we cannot participate in this. We don't have the funds. We don't have the ability. Matt, in a time where the economy is on such weak footing as it is right now, and seems to be getting worse. This Obamacare, you know, we have people saying this is scholars who look into these types of things say this is completely unsustainable. How can they continue to push this massive socialist program through when all of the objective evidence shows that it will essentially be the death knell for our economy?
Well, they argue that they're going to put more people into Medicaid and Medicare and to get more people covered. The problem is that Medicaid and Medicare already are fiscal disasters, and they need to be reformed. And so what they're going to do is they're actually going to add to the problem by doing this. They also, their whole argument is really founded upon this extreme view of the role of government in our private lives, that they can force individuals to buy something, that they can force employers to provide a certain product. And if they can do that, they can do anything. As I've said before, they could force you to buy certain kinds of food. They could force you to buy domestically grown food as opposed to...
Where does it stop?
Yeah, and certain kinds of food because it's more healthy than others, so that it would support our local farmers and give more health to individuals and therefore less health care. They could force you to buy certain vehicles in order to prop up the motor vehicle industry. And it goes on and on and on. There really is no ultimate definable limit on this, and it really gives unlimited power and a centralization to the federal government that is unprecedented.
And that's, you just nailed on what this is actually all about. It's all about power. It's all about control. It's all about the federal government having power and control not only over the states, but in this case actually over the individual and our individual liberties. Well, Matt, the Obama administration has tacitly admitted that this thing is a failure before they've even gotten it off the ground. There have been over 1,000 waivers granted to this. People saying we just can't do this. Corporations like McDonald's and others saying we can't do this. They're being granted waivers, opt-out waivers essentially for a period of time.
That's right. I mean, this thing, if it were to get implemented, it would be a catastrophe to the economy and to our freedom and to our healthcare system. This case, we argued it yesterday. I presented oral arguments in Liberty University versus Geithner. Then the Commonwealth of Virginia presented arguments. In its case, our case includes a challenge to the individual and the employer mandate. It has additional constitutional challenges as well. Virginia's has a challenge only to the individual mandate and more narrow constitutional challenges.
Where does it go from here?
Well, it goes from here that the three-judge panel will make its decision later this year. I suspect, I can't tell you exactly when, but probably by the end of the summer, early fall. And then from there, whoever loses will ask the U.S. Supreme Court to review the case. I suspect the Supreme Court will take this case at the end of the year or January. Argument will probably be around February or so of next year, March of next year, and a decision no later by the end of June of 2012. So this will be right in the heart of the election cycle. But it is a huge case, not only on this issue, but also on the future direction of America and the power of the government. Give us a call at Liberty Counsel, and you can go to our website, lc.org. You can sign up for our Liberty Alert email and our Grassfire email as well for action email alerts right there on the website. You can also make an online credit card contribution or send the contribution donation to the address on the screen. Help Liberty Counsel to continue to fund this case because it is a very extensive and expensive case. Go to our website and become a partner of Liberty Counsel as we challenge this case and advance family, faith, and freedom.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.